Hi friends. We can see the changes to the lifestyle of the people around the whole world. Effect on shrimp exports. The outbreaks of both the Wuhan coronavirus and SARS started in Chinese wet markets. The Hunan seafood market in Wuhan is thought to be the starting point of the virus outbreak. A 57-year-old female shrimp seller in China's Wuhan city, the originating point of the coronavirus pandemic, has been identified as one of the first victims of COVID-19. Wei Gexian, as identified by the Wall Street Journal, was selling shrimps at the Wuhan seafood market on December 10 when she developed a cold. Believing that she had a common flu, Wei visited a local clinic for treatment where she was given an injection. Wei continued to feel weak and visited 11th Hospital in Wuhan a day later. The new coronavirus is likely to become the fifth endemic coronavirus in humans. Coronaviruses clearly have the ability to cross species boundaries and adapt to new hosts, which allows us to more directly predict more coronaviruses in the future. India's shrimp exports are likely to decline 10 to 15% in the next few quarters because of weakening global demand following the coronavirus outbreak in China, the biggest importer of Indian seafood after the United States. China largely imports lower value-added and block frozen shrimp from India, demand of which is serviced by several small exporters and a few large players. Companies with high exposure to Chinese markets would feel immediate impact as demand falls. Smaller companies with limited financial flexibility will among most affected. The broader impact on India would stem from not only a reduction in Chinese demand but a correction in prices as global supply-demand dynamics are disturbed, said Pavitra Ponia, Vice President and Sector Head, ICRA. For China, major sources of frozen shrimp imports are Ecuador, 50.7% during AKMCY, nor India, 24%, and Vietnam and Thailand, at a cumulative 9.6%. China imports around 60% of its annual consumption between July and December to meet its uptick in demand in December and January every year, before falling to seasonal lows in February post the Chinese New Year. This period of Chinese high consumption has been disrupted by the lockdown on cities and movement following the coronavirus pandemic. China, along with Vietnam, contributes nearly 25% of India's overall annual seafood exports. The reactionary unprecedented massive shutdown in China would lead to a contraction in Chinese demand for seafood, leading to a supply glut in the global market. Apart from the reduced demand, disruption in China's internal logistics for unloading, storing, and further processing would wreak havoc on all types of seafood, the impact of which would be felt on the entire value chain. Port clearance for seafood containers at Chinese ports would be difficult in the current environment, effectively cutting off the supply pipeline temporarily. Global shrimp prices are expected to face pressure over the next few months, as trade adjusts to the changing demand dynamics in China. Domestic production is estimated at over 1 million ton. Its sizable shrimp consumption makes China a key price mover in the global markets. In fact, it acted as a market stabilizer during CY19, when demand from the US, the European Union, and Japan floundered. In terms of global trade, the US has traditionally been the largest importer of shrimp, with imports of 698,000 tons in CY19. China closely follows with imports of 650,000 tons, despite it being the largest producer globally. During the second half of CY19, China overtook the US to become the largest shrimp importer globally, with its increasing domestic consumption far surpassing disease-hit domestic production. The European Union, Japan, and Vietnam are other key shrimp importing countries. The European Union and Japan have reported largely flat shrimp imports over the past 5 years, while imports by Vietnam crashed last year. Vietnam, more re-exporter than consumer, was the largest conduit for unreported shrimp imports into China until FY19. With China cracking down on imports via Vietnam, India's direct exports to China jumped in FY20. Indian companies already locked into quarterly to annual price contracts would not feel the immediate impact. However, the margins of companies selling on spot prices would be affected, said an industry expert. Given the lead time of 3-4 months for cultivation, immediate term supply of shrimp is inelastic. However, stocking levels in Indian farms are showing signs of contraction during the seasonal peak stock month of February. This could reduce supply over the next few months. India is unlikely to achieve its seafood export target of $7 billion United States dollars, 6.5 billion euros this financial year due to disruptions to global trade flow caused by the coronavirus pandemic, the Hindu business line reported in late March. The country exported seafood worth 6.73 billion United States dollars, 6.2 billion euros in the last financial year. To contain the spread of the deadly COVID-19, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi ordered a complete lockdown on the 24th of March, which entered into force that day at midnight and will last for 21 days. The shutdown will see most of the country's economic activities suspended, except for essential sectors. Moreover, lockdowns as well as travel bans related to major markets, including European countries and the United States, are disrupting the flow of trade to and from India. It is now an uncertain market with exports coming to a standstill, which led to a price drop not only for shrimp but also for other fish varieties, Alex K. Ninand, the president of the Seafood Exporters Association of India for the Kerala region, told the business line. Many of the export markets such as Japan and the US are buying selectively. The European market is totally cut off, while there is only negligible procurement from the Chinese market. Prices of material shrimp fell to 360 Indian rupees, 4 United States dollars and 70 cents, 4 euros and 40 cents, for 40 ounces of the 15th of March, down 6.5% from 385 Indian rupees, 5 United States dollars, 4 euros and 70 cents, for the same size at the end of February. The uncertainty of the market has worried local shrimp farmers, with many rushing to harvest early to prevent losses and reducing stocks by about 60%, especially those in East-West Godavari and Krishna districts of Andhra Pradesh, All India Shrimp Hatcheries Association President D. Ramraj said. A possible delay in importing brood stock from the US will seriously hurt the Indian sector, as it is heavily dependent on the brood stock from the US with about 400 shipments, Ramraj added. Officials from India's Marine Products Exports Development Authority, AMPEDA, have admitted the pandemic has resulted in lower exports. However, the authority expects exports will rebound in about 3 months, when it predicts the outbreak will be under control, according to the news site.